The abrupt cessation of the pestering struck you as odd. No more strangers unintentionally running into you with the same pre-planned talks. No more enigmatic cars following you home, and no more disruptions to your everyday routine. Rather, your email is flooded with unforeseen chances, such as invitations to exclusive meetings with powerful people, offers to join esteemed organizations, and speaking engagements at exclusive events. You felt the familiar heavenly voice alerting you that these golden handcuffs were simply another kind of chain, maybe more harmful than the intimidation techniques they had previously used. As you sat there examining the most recent offer, a sizable contract that would end all of your financial troubles. Before you ever knew their names, they examined you. You weren't just another person in the throng. Rather, you were an unpredictable variable and a piece that wouldn't fit their board. They took action against you once again for that reason. First, connections disappeared suddenly. Doors closed before you could get to them, and individuals you trusted became aloof and began to mutter warnings you were never supposed to hear. Quiet eliminations are what the system lives on. They just make your life more difficult until you vanish. They don't reveal who they are targeting. However, you didn't. Even though you were hurt, you continued on. Every attempt to harm you was foiled, and every plan fell apart before it could be finished. Then, everything changed because you weren't intended to go this far. You are now being invited by the same hands who attempted to delete you. Threats give way to promises and the murmurs. Because the system must hold what it cannot smash, it recruits in addition to destroying. You were never picked at random. When they realized that nothing they did could break you, they decided they wanted you after they pushed your limitations, seen your tenacity, and observed how you continued to rise. The hunters' turn become recruiters in this way. After attempting to push you to the periphery, they started dragging you in the direction of the center. The same individuals that obstructed your progress now assert that they recognize your value. Until they saw you could succeed, they didn't want you to. They changed strategies at that point. No more sabotage, no more resistance. They are flattering you now, calling you a visionary, a leader, or a natural. You are suddenly valued by the same system that formerly worked against you. However, this is a warning rather than a success. If they want you, it's not because they appreciate you. Rather, it's because they need you. The system does not accept outsiders without cause. For years, you fought fights you couldn't always see while marching through flames. It was never random, the silence, the closed doors, the rejection. Their goal was to wear you out and get you to quit. The invitation then comes. A message, a call, a handshake from someone who suddenly recognizes your potential, just when you should have been crushed by the weight of it all. They want to draw you in, you, the person they disregarded, and push to the brink. An abrupt turnaround encased in gold. They tell you that you've been seen, that your work is outstanding, and that your brilliance is indisputable. They provide you access to resources, contacts, a platform, and a place at their table. Everything you formerly battled for without opposition. However, why now? Why not when you were in need of help? Why not while you were struggling to go ahead on your own, drowning in their barriers? Because the goal here was to own you, not to reward you. They sense the strength you're gaining, power that wasn't bestowed, but rather developed via adversity. You are dangerous because they can see that you don't break. The system absorbs dangers rather than waiting for them to become too powerful. It presents imprisonment as triumph and envelops them in money and status. Additionally, you won't initially feel the shackles if you agree. In Mark 8:36, Jesus asks, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, yet lose his soul?" They anticipate that you will disregard such words. The agreement is straightforward. If you accept, you will have stability in a world constructed on shifting sand, money beyond your wildest dreams, and power beyond your wildest expectations. What precisely are you agreeing to? They won't elaborate. Ink is never used to write the actual phrases. Hidden in subtle gestures, silent cues, and unsaid expectations, they are invisible. Your compliance is what they require, not your skill. Be quiet when they want you to. Speak when they ask you to. And at all costs, support their interests. This is a trade, not a gift. They are replacing your vision, not investing in it. They're taking away your voice, not bolstering it. You are a possession, not a relationship. And even though you may still see yourself in the mirror after signing, something will be gone. Not your fortune or celebrity, but something more profound and irreplaceable. You anticipate that the enemy would approach with force, with shadows behind them, and demand surrender. However, this isn't how it works. They have extended hands and loving grins, instead of horns and a pitchfork. They go through areas you used to struggle to get into with ease, wearing respectability like a cloak. Their movements are disarming and their words are fluid. They are no longer adversaries. They are mentors, benefactors, and possible partners. We love what you're doing. Your voice is powerful. We want to help you go further. This time, they are attempting to win you over rather than kill you. A handshake with someone whose name matters. A private encounter, an exclusive event. It all starts with an invitation. You enter spaces where others want to be, surrounded by others who say they can relate to you. They don't hurry you. There are no contracts or demands. They take their time since the goal is to make you desire it, not to force it. They research you, your thoughts, your values, your causes, and your anxieties. After that, they reflect you. Their aims seem to be in line with yours, and their phrases sound like your own. They portray their universe as an organic continuation of the course you have previously taken. It seems natural, comfortable, and secure. You can still be yourself. We wouldn't ask you to change. This is just the next step. Then the change starts. First, little details. A word choice here. A change in the storyline there. Not directives, but recommendations. Little concessions that hardly register until you look back and see that the success they promised no longer belongs to you, but to them. Jesus says, "Nothing is covered up that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known." In Luke 12:2. You believed that you were simply another person trying to find your way through life, but you were really being watched. It begins quietly as well. Someone else's words suddenly include a discourse you never repeated. A stranger makes a remark that too closely matches your innermost feelings. You shouldn't have to deal with the way your searches, routines, and patterns are reflected back to you. Is it a coincidence? They want you to think that, but you know better. Data powers the globe, and those in positions of power hoard it like money. Before you make choices, they lay things out for you. They keep an eye on both your words and your silence. They follow your relationships, examine your allegiances, and analyze your behavior. You don't realize how long they've been doing this. They evaluated you, created a profile, tested your limitations, and discovered which barriers would hold and which threads could be pulled before they came up to you. They were designing the proper moment, not just waiting for it. And something changes the instant you realize this. You stop dismissing it as paranoia and stop attributing the unsettling times to coincidence. You understand that their interest in you is premeditated and not fresh. You were never lost to them. However, they are unaware of the boundaries of their observation. Their technology is more sophisticated, but you have better judgment. They are able to follow your words, but they are unable to read your soul. They are not able to foresee supernatural intervention, but they can foretell your tendencies. They have no control, but they can observe. They are afraid of you because they are unable to quantify the strength of your guidance. Most people can't handle the truth, even if it's said to set you free. It's the whole cosmic download for the selected ones in the obsidian inner order, not simply the truth. No escape, no sugarcoating. Imagine weekly group calls with over 450 selected individuals that are recorded and accessible at any time for your education. Not only is our private Discord operational, but it's alive and humming with innovations, ideas, and that unstoppable chosen energy. And welcome to Chosen Singles, where soulmates connect based on cosmic alignments rather than cheesy pickup lines, for all of you romantics out there. Explore contemporary manifestation mechanisms, our unique grimoire, which has 3 chapters accessible to members if you're interested. Discover how to utilize magical energies to advance your objectives. Learn basic spellcraft for physical manifestation, and transform your house into a prosperity magnet. Additionally, you get access to video specials that are so daring that the YouTube archons don't even want you to see them, as well as interviews with actual targeted people. This is a movement, not just a membership. What are you waiting for then? Give up looking and begin climbing. The description contains the URL. It seems to be a dream at first. You believe that the fight, the opposition, and the many challenges were behind you. A golden key is now being held out by the same hands that once worked against you, guaranteeing you access to all they previously denied you. However, something doesn't seem right. You attempt to dismiss it, telling yourself that it's paranoia and that you've just become wary of luck as a result of all you've been through. But the sensation remains. The whisper of God is louder. The atmosphere around you changes. Something invisible, something concealed under the gleaming exterior of their world seems to permeate the air. The way they talk, their somewhat staged grins, the way they offer, the way they dangle chances like bait, waiting for you to bite. Always something larger, something better. As long as you agree, you begin to see the patterns. The way they put you to the test, innocent-seeming soft inquiries, little concessions passed off as favors, and keeping an eye on your limits. Then the glitz goes away. Beneath the gold, you can see the chains. They gave you a prison with a view, but never freedom. It's a leash, not a prize, despite the riches, access, and reputation. You were simply supposed to wear it, not possess it. The decision then becomes evident. Since you can't just say yes and then walk away, this is about survival, not morality. Your moves and your words are no longer wholly your own. The true cost is your obedience, acquiescence, and quiet. But they fear you because you are not for sale. You were never one of them. After attempting to break you for years, they attempted to purchase you, but you refused. Initially, there is a pause, a moment of incredulity, then quiet. After being given everything, after being so near to the gates of power, after hearing their guarantees, their promises, and their perfectly constructed falsehoods, no one rejects them. They anticipated hesitancy, compromise, or anything else than the unequivocal, firm rejection you provided. The warmth vanishes at that point. The invites halt. The pleasant tones get stern. As though burnt, the same hands that grabbed for you withdraw. The change is immediately apparent. Until you weren't, you were their next big thing, their rising star. All of a sudden, you are singled out rather than disregarded. Offers become threats, compliments become demands, and smiles become something colder. A silent but obvious danger. The first signs are subtle. A missed chance here, a door closed there, and former industry pals who previously praised you suddenly appear aloof, uncertain, and reluctant. Then the murmurs begin. They distort your name and reinvent your tale. The same media that gave you support now begins to undermine you. They accuse you of being difficult, ungrateful, and a burden. However, you were previously aware that this would occur since you had seen them do it to those who have refused to kneel and to others who have left. They never voluntarily let go. They want everyone to think that nobody can get away from them. The issue with them, however, is that their authority over you was never real. They just managed access. They never had any influence over you. They never intended for you to be in their system. You don't need their platforms, entrances, or meticulously crafted permission. They press so hard because they can't undo something they never made. And your refusal isn't just rejection, it's exposure. It demonstrates that they are not gods, that their hold is not as strong as they claim, that a force exists that is superior to theirs, and that it is not intimidated by wealth, notoriety, or terror. They assault you more forcefully, but their attacks are brief because they are more afraid of your continued existence than of your rejection. Offers become threats, compliments become demands, and smiles become something colder. A silent but obvious danger. The first signs are subtle. A mischance here, a door closed there, and former industry pals who previously praised you suddenly appear aloof, uncertain, and reluctant. Then the murmurs begin. They distort your name and reinvent your tale. The same media that gave you support now begins to undermine you. They accuse you of being difficult, ungrateful, and a burden. However, you were previously aware that this would occur, since you had seen them do it to those who have refused to kneel and to others who have left. They never voluntarily let go. They want everyone to think that nobody can get away from them. The issue with them, however, is that their authority over you was never real. They just managed access. They never had any influence over you. They never intended for you to be in their system. You don't need their platforms, entrances, or meticulously crafted permission. They press so hard because they can't undo something they never made. And your refusal isn't just rejection, it's exposure. It demonstrates that they are not gods, that their hold is not as strong as they claim, that a force exists that is superior to theirs, and that it is not intimidated by wealth, notoriety, or terror. They assault you more forcefully, but their attacks are brief because they are more afraid of your continued existence than of your rejection. They talk of togetherness, fraternity, and an exclusive circle that only the deserving may enter, and now they're reaching out to you. However, this is a claim rather than an honor, because these companies rely on hierarchy and control rather than shared authority. You are not being accepted as an equal, but rather evaluated as an asset. Instead of hiring leaders, they hire tools. Exclusive access, exclusive meetings, and unwritten agreements first seem to be privileges. They inform you that your position has changed, that you have been selected, and that you are now one of them. However, the more you learn, the more you understand that this is about ownership rather than success. They want you to test how much you are prepared to give up, not to provide you authority. Small things at beginning, like a promise of confidentiality, a pointless favor, or a commitment that comes with a job. However, the price rapidly increases. A compromise when you should stand fast, a statement when you should remain silent, a little sacrifice at first until the burden becomes too great. You begin to notice what others won't acknowledge. Those who declined are shunned, their names removed, and their labor derided. They are spoken about as warning stories. Those who have accepted are in, yet they have changed as individuals. Their eyes no longer fire as they used to, and their statements seem prepared, written, and intended more for approbation than for veracity. Since no one really quits once they're there, they are ghosts of their former selves while holding the greatest positions. You realize why they need you the instant you recognize this for what it is. You are the one thing they cannot control, not because you want their approval or need their protection. They invited you because they needed you, not because they were kind or because they respected you. They did it because they needed your abilities, your opinions, and your reputation. The facade is wearing thin, and their system is breaking down. Too many individuals are starting to doubt the machine they used to trust, and they alter their approach when deceit no longer works. Since they understand that influence is the true battle, they no longer aim to quiet you, but rather to absorb you. They have been honing their strategies for decades. perhaps millennia. In order to maintain power, regardless of what people think, they not only exert control, but also generate opposition, finance resistance, and present opposing viewpoints. You are not a pawn on their board. You are not controlled opposition. They attempted, but failed, to eliminate you. You resisted their attempt to purchase you. They are presently at a loss for movements. Every time someone breaks through their facade, their hold becomes less strong. Every time someone like you doesn't crumble, their falsehoods falter. They use their influence to shape stories, choosing who rises, who falls, who triumphs, and who loses. However, they are unwilling to acknowledge the fact that they are unable to produce what you possess. All they can do is attempt to cling themselves to it. The thing that worries them the most, however, is that you don't need them. You didn't. You were never waiting for their approval, and you never need their validation. You didn't break, even though they were waiting for you to. You rejected the whispered promises. You resisted kneeling when they gave you a throne, and you walked away from the gilded shackles. In any case, you ascend above them, not by their backroom agreements, their systems, or the deceptions they do to gain power. Without them, your power increases because truth has a weight of its own, and true effect comes from truth rather than from trends. People can see, feel, and identify it. They attempt to persuade you that you are nothing without them, but now they stand by and watch as your influence grows beyond their control. They are famous and wealthy, but you have something they will never have: a purpose. And there is always a purpose. Kingdoms based on deceit fall, fame wanes, and riches changes. But those who fight for what is right endure. Time is running out for them. Under them, the structure they established, which at one point seemed impenetrable, is collapsing. They sense it, the urgency in their actions, the desperation in their words, the tightening hold of a power that is aware that it is losing ground. They come to you for that reason, not because they appreciate your experience or admire you, but rather because they are losing control. They controlled by delusion for decades. They used deceit to mold reality. They shaped the trends, regulated the information flow, and planned the ascent and fall of anybody who tried to oppose them. But their system did not create you. You are dangerous because they did not construct you. They are unable to manage what they cannot produce, and they try to eradicate, or worse, incorporate it. They no longer employ force to get to you, and they no longer start with dread. Rather, they entice, whispering assurances of safety, prestige, and authority inside their ranks. Slavery, however, is powerless. The people who came before you were aware of this fact. Despite growing up in the palace of the Pharaoh, Moses left. Despite being presented with the king's wealth, Daniel stayed faithful to God. Jesus was given the world's kingdoms and told that he could have them if he would only kneel. However, he refused to bend, and you won't either, since you realize that their dominion was founded on sand. All of their pillars, fear, dishonesty, and manipulation, are crumbling under them. It was never intended for you to hold it up, because you remain unaffected while their world burns. They need you more than you will ever need them. They want your quiet, your submission, and your surrender. As stated in James chapter 4, verse 7, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. You didn't give it to them. Their sense of control was destroyed by each rejection and each instance in which you remain strong. They could purchase influence, control results, and sway opinions, but they couldn't purchase you. That is your power, not theirs. Contracts and hidden chamber handshakes are not your strength. It is independent of the riches they distribute or the platforms they possess. It originates from an untouchable source. All of the offers you turned down were tests. All of your rejections were declarations. You stand where very few others do, outside of their reach and grasp, not because you were a better player or battled harder, but because you never needed them in the first place. Their promises were chains, their influence was borrowed time, and their money was a mirage. Eternity has your name inscribed on it. What you refuse to lose is the ultimate win, not what you obtain. Allow them to assemble their house of cards, enlist the weak, and struggle to preserve a world that was never really theirs. It never included you. You are evidence that you were never their property. Explain to them how you were able to spot the scam. Express to them your refusal to make concessions. Inform them of your existence.